Draft here, getting to game number 1 as T1 do have blue side advantage, is I guess how we'd refer to it here in the LCK. I know elsewhere red side has found a little bit of extra value, but Ambess are going to be banned away here first, and these first bans are so incredibly important, Wolf, as you already illustrated on the support side, but there are so many other things as well. Yeah, and there are must bans on the red side, Skarner being the clear standout there, and will be the first to be taken away by Nongshim Red Force. Do like this Rumble ban here from T1 as well, allowing a lot of flexibility, and even a first pick Cassante that could go over to Doran, who's been so much of a facilitator. There's the Elise we discussed, taken away right off the bat. And the Jace pick does stand out like a sore thumb here for T1. I think Doran has been our best tank Jace player this tournament, and I think it's a really easy first pick here if it's left available. You're still considering the Ashe, the Varus here, I think, as Nongshim Red Force as well in that final ban spot. The Vi, that's really strong for Nongshim. They don't necessarily want to ban it because they'd love to play it, but T1 might just snap that one up, but they leave it. They will. I love this, because this is a lot of... We're going to take away something very strong for Carrier, but we're leaving a lot up, right? Like the Jace is available, the Galio is available. Sejuani for Gideon, that he was so incredibly good at yesterday, is another one. Like there are a lot of big picks, so as far as red side is concerned, you're feeling like you can still get a lot when that Jace is immediately locked in. No surprises that it is going to be that first lock-in for Doran. Could theoretically go over to Faker as well, but I do think that Nongshim can, you know, hit back pretty well here in the draft. I think a Cassante pick here makes a lot of sense because it can neutralize the Jace decently well. It's great in a lane swap. The Vi that I mentioned, they definitely want to play with their playstyle right now is left available. They said, okay, you'll take Jace over the Vi. We get Cassante Vi. This is a great usage of red side, I feel, here by Nongshim Red Force in this first rotation. The Poppy will get locked, and they banned the Elise, so it's a pretty safe pick in this scenario and a flex. Yep. It feels like the Elise did project that perhaps there was going to be some Poppy in the future. Does also do a decent job against the Shen. It's hard to shadow dash through the Steadfast Presence. So Faker going to lock away his Azir, no worries there. But Fisher still access to some pretty powerful picks in the mid lane that he's found a lot of success on. His Talia was a bit up and down yesterday, but we know that his Aurora has been decent. I like Aurora. These matchups are actually just kind of fine. The Vi Talia has always been a staple matchup, and it's pretty easy to hit your shoves if the Vi locks down the target first. But the Aurora, I think, just offers so much more team fight potential and some additional damage and side lane power that the Talia doesn't necessarily command. Sure, she has the ability to roam, so that's a really strong boon for her when she does end up in sides, but the Aurora can often just push an Azir out of a side if Fisher gets an advantage. That doesn't happen too often for Fisher when he is playing these mages, but we'll see how he performs today as the Varus seems like the very obvious ban at this point in terms of controlling those lane swaps. And Nautilus will follow here. That's an interesting ban from T1. Yeah, I wasn't quite thinking that that's exactly where Lehen's going to gravitate to, but we know that he loves playing the champion. It is Lehen's, so maybe it's just Nautilus and Leona, and then you force him on something a little less comfortable. Maybe Smash is planning on playing Zeri here. With the tank Jace and the Poppy, I think it can work, and I wonder if they're considering a ban of it. We'll get the Xayah taken away, which I think is a safe ban considering the Vi composition they've put together. Now remember, this can still be jungle Poppy with something like a Lulu to come in for Carrier to give Smash a hyper carry. They've got a really nice scaling composition here, and the Jace is tankier than you might remember if you watched Jace in the previous years, so they still do have a frontline 4 comp like that. The Ezreal also still a consideration for both teams, I would say, at this point in time. And the Kai'Sa making a lot of sense there. There's a lot of dive that Nongshim have put together already, and so taking that one away does make a bunch of sense. They do have a fair bit of magic damage already, though, so just a regular physical AD carry seems just fine. See where Ju is going to go, or whether he's going to lock away a support, hold on to his own pick for a while. But instead, it's looking like the Ezreal is going to be coming through. There is a lot of smoke and mirrors with this composition. Not necessarily a lot of peel required for this Ezreal as well, so it does open some doors for Lehen's as far as what he wants to be picking up here. Yeah, this doesn't really stand out as a Jinx composition here for Smash with the Lulu, just because there's not a whole lot of setup for getting those resets. You can make it work, but it looks like we could just go for Misfortune Rel. I mean, it could be Misfortune Poppy as well. The T1 have that flexibility, but with the Xin Zhao pick, it is going to be a pivot. So that Poppy goes into the bottom lane. And Smash to debut his Corki here, potentially. That's a risky ask at this point. Yep, Corki has been picking up a few more wins than he otherwise was getting, but Either Corky or Misfortune both make me quite upset.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you guys, that's not exactly filling me with excitement. This least of all, as MF has really found herself struggling to find a whole lot of value, especially against something like a Vi, Cassante as well. There's a lot of ways to really take advantage of a more stationary target.
Yeah, we know how well Smash can play Zeri, for example, and they've got a lot of setup for it. They've got great scaling. I'm surprised that they just slam down the Misfortune because it's very risky. And the Leona is open as well. Man, this is such a great lock-in.
Oh, never mind!
Blitz is great as well into this Misfortune. I mean, anything that's going to be able to, at range, grab a stationary target is going to feel really good about this. And Jace also is somewhat reliant on his ability to set up these engages from a distance while the rest of the team follows up in that moment, because he is a tank, but he's kind of like a suicide bomber tank. He goes in, does a bunch of things, lives for a little bit, gets some cooldowns, and the Azir follows up, the Misfortune follows up, but the Blitzcrank could just yank him out of position and ruin all of that and then front to back, especially because they have so many great follow-up tools as well to isolate him or the Xin Zhao, even though Xin Zhao can absorb so much pressure, and Owner has been such a good Xin Zhao player when it comes to that. If he gets pulled and isolated before his teammates can follow up, you know, he doesn't live forever. He could buy a ton of time. We know that T1 is on paper the stronger team coming into today, but I've been really impressed with how Nongshim utilized this red side draft, to be honest with you, Atlas.
I really like it. I also think that Blitzcrank isn't just a hook in this composition either. Like, the ability to use your ultimate to cancel a bunch of stuff. Like, Poppy starts waving her thing around, like, you just say, no, I would prefer it if you didn't do that. Like, Misfortune starts a channel, you miss a hook, you just flash ult, and you're still going to be able to stop that bullet time from going off, unless you're in range of a rocket punch, which you probably should do that instead. But there are a lot of different options here to make T1's day a little bit harder. Still, very stock standard composition here from T1. You'd expect they should still be able to utilize it to get across the line. No glaring holes or anything like that, but we do like what Nongshim have put together. Maybe we're starting off with a competitive one here in game number 1. That would be extremely exciting. Let's dive into it. All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen, onto the Rift for game number 1. T1 on the blue side taking on Nongshim here, who were victorious yesterday over the Bros. We thought that the Bros, after their victory over Gen G, were going to be pretty good here in this LCK Cup. Well, they're pretty absent now, unfortunately. And Nongshim are here in their place, and we'll see whether some of that Giga Chad energy has rubbed off on Nongshim.
Yeah, that's the question. Nongshim really leaned into their dive identity towards the end of the group battle stage, and yesterday as well. Lehen's heavily kind of saying, look, I've got a unique champion pool, and we're going to be able to utilize that in some cool drafts, and I think this is another example of that with the Misfortune locked in, and some of these squishy targets here for T1. Even the Jace in the mid game isn't going to be that tanky just yet. I mean, you really have a lot of opportunity. You do see that, you know, there was a bit of a late rotation over for Nongshim. They had the vision that there wasn't going to be anyone coming into where right now you can see Vi starting the jungle, so they just went back to the bottom lane. It's going to be a normal 2v2, but they were prepared to go for that level 1 Blitzcrank if need be.
Yep. I don't mind this as far as standard lanes are concerned. I think you're okay with it on either side. Fair bit of early power in the Misfortune, as we know. But Lehen's, if he manages to land a hook, things can get a little rough. With a Poppy there and not something like a Lux, you obviously don't need to worry too much about just getting poked into oblivion. As level 2 has been found. Heroic Charge, no stun here from Keria, as now Lehen's finds the hook. Onto Keria, gets the knock up, but now he's taken so much damage. Smash, one more auto will do it, and he flashes forward to pick it up. That's first blood in this bottom lane, as the flash from G was so weird alongside that Heroic Charge. One more auto would do it, but it's not gonna be there, and it's a double in the bottom lane for T1. Okay,
oh,
so
man.
this is how it's gonna go.
A bit of a disaster here for Nongshim Red Force, and you can see the thought process behind it with the cooldowns used there from Keria. They thought they win this trade, but I think really just kind of forgetting the base damage here at level 2 on a Misfortune. As Keria goes in, Aftershock is proc. They're like, okay, he's got no Aftershock. Maybe we win this, but look at Smash's damage. He's just like, nah, I kill this. And then unfortunately for Jiwoo, he thinks he actually has the damage here as well and decides to flash in. Misses a Q as well. And that's, yeah.
That's it.
잡았다. 하하하.
And it was nicely done. That was a weird interaction with the flash heroic charge from Carrier being arcane shifted and then flashed. But ultimately, it works out in the end. And now, it is absolutely disastrous for Nongshim because coming back in a lane when you blitzcrank just isn't really a thing that exists. So we're going to need some shenanigans from Lehens if Nongshim wants any chance of making their way back in this game. As Gideon will be able to grab the bottom crab. There is at least that for him.
Yeah, something.
Yep.
As this lane is not like completely doomed after this or anything like that, but it is going to create a lot of problems later on, especially because Ezreal is so functionally reliant on that 2-item spike. Does have a CS lead for now, but the gold deficit plus the cull that was picked up here from Smash means that he's going to have a fantastic ride through this mid-game, especially the earlier parts of it on this Misfortune. So Misfortune, kind of the name of the game here for Nongshim's bottom lane, I suppose, with what happened in that 2v2 there.
Yeah, I think getting some revenge is going to be pretty important here on this bottom side to try and stop things from just snowballing out of control. However, they're going to look towards the top side first. Doran is playing very defensively, though. And we can see Gideon probably not going to find any joy here as Doran looks to shove that wave in, get some vision down, and keep himself as safe as possible. So 1,000 gold in it between the two teams now. But T1 just cruising, right? Like, you've got the tank Jace you mentioned already, does absolutely fine moving later into the game. Azir needs no introduction whatsoever as, oh wow, Nerves of Steel there from Fisher, as he teleports on top of Faker as well. Of course, this is Turtle Port, so Faker has got plenty of time to clear out the wave.
Yeah, I think if it was old teleport, maybe you try to get a double Q on him there, weirding, and try to execute him or force him to flash, but instead Faker's just like, I'm just going to walk away.
Yeah, you'll be here on Thursday, so it'll be fine. As Kingen does manage to get himself that cannon, you can see Doran is about a wave ahead up here towards his top side. Something you'd expect in the early game from the Jace, and you'd expect Kingen on this K'Sante to just not care about it whatsoever. Fisher needs to hit some of these buttons if he does want to be winning out in a lot of these trades, but ultimately, things are very, very even in mid as well, and both of these champions probably looking to scale towards more of these team fights and not just killing each other in lane.
Yeah, definitely. Some of the minion damage that Fisher took, definitely not feeling great about that on their new exchange. But down here, you see Jiwoo again is totally fine in this lane. Stabilized pretty well as Fisher gets a level 6 advantage for just a second, but shouldn't be able to utilize it here in the lane. And I'm worried mostly for how these first few skirmishes are going to go for Nongshim, because they definitely had an itchy trigger finger on that bottom side fight. Let's see if they can quickly try to use this prio to grab Dragon and then turn to the grubs, because if you end up losing a lot of control early, it's going to be a disaster, and Gideon's in trouble.
Ona's going in, but Carrier taking a fair bit of damage as well. Steadfast presence as he misses the Mystic shot there. Does Jiwoo, and Lehen's going to pay the price for it. Smash grabs yet another kill as Arcane Shift gets Jiwoo out of there, but Tri-Brush not going to be warded, and therefore no more shots going to land. Nongshim not finding wins really anywhere as Fisher looks for Faker in the mid lane, throws down the ulti, but Faker just slides his way out.
The Dragon doesn't get taken, of course, but feats of strength, the first one is picked up here for T1 off of that third kill. Feeling really happy about how that exchange went, and now moving into control over the top side. Sure, you know, that goes to Nongshim for the moment being, but some of these critical ultimates just now coming online. Gideon has his, Fisher blew his actually, so doesn't have it for a potential combo setup here. See if T1 do decide to contest as Smash and Jiwoo are both staying in the bottom lane.
Yeah, control wards going down all over the place. Banana Brush control on the minds of both teams. Smash with a double up is going to convince you that this bottom lane is not somewhere that he wants to exist. And I believe he agrees. Kingen now looking for a bit of an angle as Carrier moving on up. Doran moving in as well as another heroic charge. Kingen trying to get himself out of there as the Crescent Guard is now on cooldown. Faker very low though, cannot join this fight as the hook is going to connect. Can they actually CC this Xin Zhao enough? That's the question. Gideon diving on top of him, flashes forward. Owner is healing though, and is going to survive. Good shield there as Kingen comes in to protect his jungler. And now Doran should be able to just finish off Fisher. If that hook had landed, Fisher able to flash his way out, but now Kingen's the one that eventually will pay the price.
Oh man, Nongshim committing so heavily to this one. Len should be able to get the execute here at the end of the day, but ultimately still another kill over to T1. They will be able to secure 2 out of 3 grubs at the end of the day. Fisher also losing his flash. Only Jiwoo with his flash left remaining here across the side of Nongshim as Carrier looking for a buckler and won't find it, but ooh, that was a bit of a Bit of a messy one.
I would say so too. Kerry going to take the quick way out as Doran will be pushing this wave towards the turret. And man, like, this is just a lot of Nongshim not really getting into position in time, not quite figuring out how their composition is going to work together, and they are now way too far behind at this stage of the game.
If Fisher has a lot more mana here or his ultimate, this fight makes a lot more sense. But as you can see, they hook Xin Zhao, and then he's like, I'm just out of here, and Fisher has no mana, and he's like, I can't really help, I can't really do anything, I can't actually offer anything. And then you mentioned Lehen's missing the hook. That was actually pretty huge when Doran decides to go back in here for the follow-up. If he hits this, maybe Fisher gets out there, and then you're able to turn that around. But unfortunately, it's just way too broken up here for the side of Nongshim. And Azir sitting on mana, doing a ton of damage this entire time. Faker's just chilling in that team fight. Now getting closer to that first item. Actually going Leandri's first.
Yeah, looking for an option onto Fisher here as well, who avoids the ultimate by investing his own. And Faker just seeing whether he could find an opportunity. As it turns out, wasn't able to, but doesn't matter whatsoever. They're still over 2,000 gold in the lead. Looking for their first objective here. If they are able to take this dragon, that will be that first feat of strength, or third of one, as far as that is concerned. One grub going over to Nongshim means that nothing was actually gained on either side as far as that objective was concerned. But now Kingen could be in trouble towards this bottom side.
Yeah, this is really tough situation for Nongshim now. Just no real control. Kingen is just like, let's see how good Cassante is. I have no flash.
Yeah. Does have his ultimate back off cooldown, but let's see what he can actually get done here as the steadfast presence gets him into the wall. There's the bullet time, and he's dead.
It's just systematic here by T1, and the cross-map Doran is like, well, I'm just not going to take a chance. I'm just going to walk away. Will be a little bit of plate gold going over to Gio in return, but it's never going to be an even trade. And even with the wave getting cleared out by that shock blast, they're not going to get hardly anything here, as this should also just be first brick for T1. And this is T1 Snowball. We talked about it in the points of the match, so we're looking at a 4,000 gold lead nearly here at 10 minutes.
Yeah, this is almost a go next type situation here as far as Nongshim are concerned. Doran just looking to hold onto the wave, and Lehens can't really seem to hit a hook on his former top laner. And looks like Doran, he can land a few shock blasts. Lehens going to have to back himself out of the way. So feats of strength now going over to T1 with that first brick falling down on the bottom side. And maybe I should change my opinion on Misfortune. Maybe Misfortune is actually just fantastic.
I just don't know if it's really about the Misfortune. Like in the bottom 2v2, her damage was big as Doran.
All right, there's cease and desist. Let's see whether they can actually get the kill. They pull him back, but now it's Carrier to remove Gideon from the equation. Still, Doran does go down. Faker teleporting in. I don't know about that one because he's trying to get himself out. A little bit weird as far as how the Observer PC managed to figure that one out, but Faker not able to get him far enough with the shifting sands. And that is 2 comeback kills here for Nongshim. Don't know whether it's going to be enough, but it's a good start.
It's definitely a step in the right direction for Nongshim, but that type of proactivity is a tough call to make, especially you know, when you're at such high risk. You know the Azir has teleport. We'll go back to this play here. We talked about the Misfortune in the 2v2 earlier. Well, you know, the damage is important. And here, when you're just locking somebody down and you just press R, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a look at it happening one more time. Let's see whether the Cassante shenanigans can actually bring Kingen out of this one. The all-out just not going to be invested, so he's just going to die.
Okay. That's,
yep.
It's not, that's one step back.
Once more on the floor.
Yes.
Guess how we're going to call that one. Still, Kingen will be back up again in 12 seconds. Time has teleport, so maybe they were hoping to fight over the grubs, which are now up and available.
This is not the Cassante who's down, you know, 30 CS because of a weird lane swap shenanigan. It's just he's been constantly dove and threatened, so he spent a lot of time in the death chamber. He can't hit CS from there. And this is going to be T1 looking to grab 5 of 6 grubs here. And beyond the death's top side, I was going to mention this before, which no longer relevant, but it was almost perfect game pace for T1 leading up until that because they had everything else. The dragon is theirs as well because Owner was on the bottom side taking that while that top side play was happening. And Lehen's, like, you've got to be, you know, first he wasn't hitting all of the important hooks, but now it's like, well, do you want to hook anybody? Is it safe to hook any target anymore in these types of skirmishes when you're this far behind? The answer is most of the time going to be no. And T1 is like, okay, we already grouped to get the bottom turret. Now let's systematically move top side, zone you away, and take this one too. It's not just the turret. It's zoning's Gio out of farm as well. And, you know, you can see Kingen is like, cool, I've got my Shadow Jungler bottom side. I'll eventually get this one, but it is never going to be a race that you win.
Yeah, and Gio still going to get pressured here. 4 people towards the top side of the map. They're just desperately trying to get vision down so they know where they're all coming from. Fisher goes back, gets himself his Ludens. Let's see whether that's going to be enough to help them at least try and challenge, as the inner turret is well and truly under fire. 5 grubs is no joke when it comes to the damage to that one. Fisher moving in. I think T1 have decided that maybe this is enough. Smash able to strut his stuff, so not too worried about that one. And Doran just, he has Lehen's downloaded.
Yeah, for Lehen's, he's like, there's just no reason to try to flash, hook, smash. You know, he definitely thought about it, you could see, but it was, Smash also has flash and wasn't going to be able to hit him there unless Smash totally messed it up or something. Decides not to go for it, goes for a blind hook, hoping he hits Carry in the brush there, but he does not. And yeah, I mean, I feel like this game for Nongshim has just been them grasping at straws ever since the big disastrous fight topside. They already had a hole in the bottom lane after the 2v2 went very awry, and it felt like Nongshim decided, well, we got to flip the game now because bottom is messed up, and now they're just never going to get control of the map back, it feels.
Yep. 1,000 extra gold when it comes to those plates as well.
Yikes.
And that is only insult meeting injury, because it is a very close to a 5,000 gold lead between these two squads. And I think, yeah, the Hail Mary does need to come out. I imagine that that will come from Lehen's, but he needs to start hitting some of these hooks at the right times to make stuff happen. And even then, do they have the burst damage to actually lock anyone down? Like, if Ona gets hooked there, does he care at all?
Yeah, I don't think so. He probably just presses R. He has flash as well.
Yeah.
T1 have kind of had a lot of flashes. Nongshim have been a little bit lower on the flash count since a lot of their plays require them. They've got most of them back up now, with the exception of Jiu, but Smash is happy to sit in this middle lane that he wins anyways in the 1v1 against Ezreal at this point in time with BT, so that's an extra shield he's going to have on top of dealing with Ezreal pretty well, but now he can deal with the poke from those Qs from Gio, so it's just a really tough matchup for Gio, and that's just another turret gone. So that'll be a third for T1, all outers removed, and they're just waiting for the dragon to spawn at this point. Look at all the vision they have, both around the entrance to the dragon and also deep into the top side of the jungle for Nongshim. So there's just nothing that Nongshim can do on the map that they aren't aware of, so it makes plays like we were talking about with Lehen's trying to hook somebody so challenging.
Ooh, Gideon, I don't know about this one.
Yeah, I don't know about this at all.
As they both knew that each of them were there. Doran's going to get in. There's the Flash Vault Breaker to get Gideon out. But I just don't know what good looked like in that play for Nongshim.
Yeah, I just don't see it myself because Lehen's was so far away. And even if he's there, they just don't have damage. Fisher's in trouble.
Yep, is going to get thrown away from his turret. Does manage to bounce towards the other side of his wall after getting bounced off Faker's wall. And then after all of the walls went down, everything was fine for both sides. I mean, you know, Fisher's whole life is sort of on fire as far as this game is concerned, but in the isolated 1v1, kind of fine.
Yeah, I mean, he has had the least, he's been the least bullied, although there were some issues in lane, but he stabilized pretty well. And I mean, Faker went for Leandri's first. I feel like if he went Nashor's Tooth first, they might have even been able to get bigger advantages. That's normally what you do with Azir, but he saw the Cassante on the other side, and he was like, well, let's go for the Leandri's first. I think it's a wise choice, but given what we know now, he probably wishes he did it the other way.
Yeah. Well, there's a heroic charge onto Jude. If it doesn't get the stun, then the bullet time doesn't get a whole lot of value. As we get a bit of a zoom in, Jonas Strong also thought Lehen's might go for something, but as it turns out, he did not. And so with bounties up and available, Nongshim are looking for a dragon, but looks like T1 are going to deny that as well. Will Nongshim ever be able to get anything this game?
It just doesn't seem likely unless T1 make a big mistake. And even look at how safely Doran's playing. He's just sitting under turret knowing they don't have control of the pit. And while he sits there, they can't punish him, and then T1 push mid.
Well, True Shot Barrage going to try and help clear out this wave. Lehen's making his way over, but this turret is just dead. And because Carrier can channel the ultimate, that's all you really need to worry about. That can protect their escape very comfortably. And in the meantime, Faker also taking another inner turret. There's only one inner turret left. And that's a Rift Herald as well.
Yeah, I mean, T1 are just farming Nongshim right now. Like,
yeah.
Everything that's red belongs to me. everything the light touches is T1's kingdom, and with all the wards they have all over the map, the light touches everything, as it turns out. And
I think even the elephant graveyard is also T1's. Like,
yeah.
it's not like Mufasa didn't even have to say that bit.
It's like basically Scar and the hyenas are hanging out in Nongshim's fountain. That's like the only place.
The only option that they have. It's a bit cooped up, but they're making the most of it. It's Fisher now moving towards Faker, seeing whether he can get a bit of poke damage. Cannot quite catch up.
Yeah, this one is pretty much all over but the crying, as I like to say oftentimes here at the LCK. I haven't said it in a while, but this is definitely the most one-sided game I've commentated in 2025.
Yeah, I would definitely be alongside you on that opinion, my friend. As Kingen is desperately going to try and defend this indefensible in a turret.
Faker has Nashers now. Already got that inner, so there's not a whole lot of like side lane hitting of turrets to do, but he still can hit the champions pretty hard. And the Leandri's damage into Kingen is going to hurt a lot. The LDR that's done at this point in time for Smash is going to hurt a lot. Gio has his second item, but he
oh no,
stacks, and
Gideon just completely isolated now. And yeah, Smash able to hit him mid-Vault Breaker with a bullet. And that's going to be enough to get rid of the Vibe.
We might have that trademark 20-minute objective from T1 in this game, except it'll be an Otacon this time.
Yeah, I think it will definitely be a 25-minute Baron as well, if we actually make it to 25 minutes. That's kind of my theory.
Oh!
All right, there's a pick onto Carrier. Hook is going to land that time. Kingen going to whiff the Q. But I don't think anyone was going to die in that particular 1v1.
When you look at the ways for Nongshim to win a fight, it's literally something like that happening before an objective onto a more prio target than the Poppy. But even getting the Poppy could be significant, but it's going to take more than that, I think. I mean, almost at this point, I think T1 could win team fights pretty convincingly 4v5, especially because he's playing Blitzcrank, so, you know, it's not like there's a whole lot he can do to sway the team fights. It really have to be the Aurora here, and look at how this one shakes out. Gideon committing his ultimate, trying to kind of close the gap between him and his teammate who was just sent into Oblivion. Isn't going to work out, but they are at least able to get this kill back with a lone ward here. The one place the light didn't touch.
Yeah. Lahen's also playing that quite nicely as well. Spots the ward go down and then goes over as if he's going to hit that, so the animation isn't necessarily obviously hook. And so Carrier not able to react to it. A little bit cute, but still, Lahen's needs to do a little bit better before really singing his praises as far as this Blitzcrank is concerned. Quite a few of those hooks have gone a little bit wide.
And Faker is 2 item Azir. He kind of likes to just hit objectives and do a lot of damage to them. And you know, it's a little bit later than on 20, but about 2015.
Yep, and we're also standing on some vision here on Nongshim's side. Let's see whether they can get some sort of steal happening, as there is the flash forward. Gideon steals it, and now they get a free ticket home. Can they grab themselves some kills as well? That's the question. As 200 gold going over to Owner as they are just kind of farming these Otacon buffs. Still, it's not as bad as dying, but it could have been better. Still, that is a whole bunch of shutdown money going over to Jiu. So that is great for Nongshim in that isolated situation.
You could see in that specific moment the things we liked about Nongshim's draft. But unfortunately, 7,000 gold behind, it just doesn't necessarily matter, as they're able to isolate that singular target, the immobile Misfortune. They are able to get a miracle steal. They can't win the subsequent fight, though, because they're just so far behind on gold, and they had to go so all in to get to that objective. They put themselves in harm's way, and they still give 200 each over to T1 in the exchange. And now with very few of these buffs left, there's not much they can do. They didn't have map control the side lane with them anyways. It's just a denial, a delay of the game here, essentially. Like, Nongshim can... They buy themselves some opportunities with this win here, for sure. But it alone is not going to put them back in the game. They'll need a lot more than just that.
They'll need a lot of turrets. They haven't taken any of those yet. So I mean, I don't know whether it feels facetious, you know, to have the conversation about standing gold, and I'm doing like
look at Smash.
Thing.
Look at Smash here. He's like, all right, we're gonna win this fight. They're all in the choke point here. I'm gonna set up my cone, and then Lahen's just says no. But like everything else is a disaster. But I mean, you can see how this comp could work for Nongshim against that isolated Misfortune. Why we didn't like this Misfortune pick. But everything else is just, I mean, so they're so far ahead, they're like, cool, Lahen is going forward. We're just going to face roll the rest of the team fight. Doesn't matter. We don't even need an AD carry. Who cares?
Yeah, and this is a lot of what I would assume many people thought about when they were considering this, because Nongshim have had some really creative draft ideas. I'm going to have to hold that thought, because we might have a fight breaking out. Nongshim all grouped as 5. Carrier with that Keeper's Verdict can really make things tough. As Doran on a flank angle, Fisher over the wall there as well. Cease and desist to get on top of him. And Doran's just being thrown around this fight like a ragdoll. Fisher is now found by Carrier, who does just evict Jiu. Emperor's Divide goes wide, though, as now Kingen trying to stay alive, but he's still at Otacon buff for another 20 seconds, so that's kind of cute. That's going to be Ona taking away the Dragon. Flash out from Faker avoids the hook as Jiu makes his way back into the fight.
Coming.
It's a 1-for-1 so far, but like you say, Kingen making his way back into the battle might mean that T1 aren't exactly getting out scot-free. True Shot Barrage does sail by and does nothing at all. And it looks like T1 will be safe for now with the Drake in hand.
If there was a better teleport angle for King, and if they had some deep wards, you know, like maybe, well, watch this again. They do have a ward to the left side of the pit they could have utilized for that teleport instead, but ultimately decided not to here. As you can see, the engage is a little bit messy on the side of T1, and Kingen feels like, okay, I'm just going to go in and do as much as I can here to buy space for my Ezreal, because I do have that Otacon buff still, so it's okay that he dies because he wants to TP back in. But he's not bold enough to do so right in the middle of this fight. He's waiting, he's waiting, he's waiting, and then ultimately decides to TP to the mid wave to try to cut off T1's retreat. If he had been a little bit faster, maybe they could have gotten a collapse there, but
yeah,
a little bit of indecision.
He also, I believe, went back with like 0 health as well, so didn't want to come back. Oh wait, never mind. He respawned. Because how did he come into the fight with 50%? I guess he came back in and then took a bit of damage and then was back out there one more time.
Yeah, he just got zoned. Like the rest of the team wasn't fast enough to collapse on his mid teleport, so he just kind of got pushed away there by all that Faker and smash damage. Exactly.
A little bit of a shame.
If he came onto that ward, maybe there's like an angle there. He had flash, I believe, as well, but either way, I mean, for Nongshim, we really have to think of the most perfect ideal scenarios for team fights for the rest of this game, and any sort of indecision, even if it's just a second or two on that teleport, just gives T1 all the angle they need with the lead they have.
Well, Carrier is possibly in danger.
He's like, oh, I only have one buckler to range this ward, so I guess I'll just leave it.
Oh, Fisher thought he found an angle there as well, but Faker is going to turn up. Not going to be able to kill 2 people at once as the Baron has now spawned. And T1, you know, you don't need to know them all that well to know that this is exactly the buff that they are thinking of taking immediately.
Yeah, this is their comfort zone.
Yeah.
When they're like 2,000 gold behind, at 7,000 ahead, you know, feeling pretty good about it. Fisher does not have teleport. He just backed and is going to go clear that bottom wave. So once he shows there, T1 can really start to threaten this Baron take with the Azir, who has upgraded Sork Pen boots and the arm guard, so he's super safe and does a ton of damage. I mean, the damage to this Baron is unreal. 3-item IE Misfortune sitting on this as well as the vision control and the teamfight prowess that Misfortune can offer with her ultimate. I mean, this is basically checkmate.
Well, let's see whether Nongshim can find themselves a miracle. As we do have that bottom wave, it was cleared out and everything's okay. Gideon once again looking for another angle. And Ona and Faker getting to work on this Dragon. Cease and desist is going to connect onto Smash. Keeper's Verdict just to get rid of the damage. And down goes the jungler. And that will mean Baron is available if T1 would like to take it. As now Kingen being discovered by Ona is exactly what Nongshim do not want. Just pick after pick here for T1. And 1 versus 5, I don't think he's going to be able to get that one. Lahan's going to get picked up by that Emperor's Divide and will be cut down where he stands as well by the onslaught of Sand Soldiers. And T1, I don't know whether they even necessarily need to take the Baron. They might just do it because they feel like it, but I think also pushing into the enemy base might be a way to win.
Yeah, well, it looks like Fisher's flash isn't going to be enough to get him out of here. And
To the Skies was both a request and the name of the ability.
Yes. I think that with the Azir damage here, they could easily just 2-man this, and then the remainder of these minions, which aren't really being thinned out by anyone, will just end the game here for T1. Faker does have teleport as well, so he can just TP to mid, and that's exactly what he's going to do. He's looking for the second inhibitor here. They can start to collapse in with these Baron-buffed cannon minions to say goodnight.
Well, there's finally a hook connecting onto Doran. Nice work, Lahens. We got there, even though it is a little bit too little and perhaps too late. Inhibitor goes down, top side and mid. And Nongshim are at least, I mean, they're breathing.
Yeah, T1 decide not to opt for the end. Interestingly, now they're in an awkward spot here.
Well, Lehens is also in an awkward spot. Wind becomes lightning, doesn't actually amount to too much. As Kingin, stopped by the Steadfast Presence, Jew needs to offer some damage back to at least deter them. The flash forward to miss the Q is not exactly what you want. As now Ona possibly out of position as well. Crescent Guard does absolutely nothing as now Kingin gets an all-out onto Doran. Nongshim actually finding some angles here as Faker is now on the floor. Carrier and Smash the only ones left alive. Thank goodness they took the Baron.
I mean, the fact that Fisher's teleport came off cooldown, I think, was the biggest concern for T1 on going for the end, because a flanking Aurora could have been an issue, but they pushed so deep anyways, they could have tried to maybe potentially rely on those super minions, or not the super minions, the Baron buff minions to then kind of siege the Nexus and stay together, but they kind of fragmented themselves off, had a bit of a late retreat, and this gave an opportunity for Nongshim, as we're going to go all the way back to this great flash by Smash here just to buy enough space, and he's communicating with Keria, who denies that damage. The Aurora is pushed away, so this looks like a fail play here from Gideon, but it was just really good reaction and coordination there from T1, as Gideon has to fish for things like this, but when the flash is up, it's so hard to follow up, and then everything falls apart behind this. This ends up being the Baron. Great shuffle here from Faker. Remember, he has his arm guard as well, so he feels pretty good about making plays like this. It's the follow-up here where T1 are so low on health. Like, Faker took so much damage, and then they can't really collapse on anyone. And the fact that Faker is low is such an issue here. And Doran and Keria split off with Smash, thinking maybe they can collapse and win that. And then they realize, uh-oh, the Aurora has TP. She's coming around. We have to somehow win this fight and kill Lehens. He's too tanky. And you can just see, this is for the first time in this game, T1 were kind of on a different page with each other, and they actually get divided and conquered themselves by Nongshim. Great TP there from Fisher. Again, one small, tiny hair gained for them, but it feels like a huge win. If it was an even game state, that could be a game-changing play. It's just buying time for now. They're going to need a few more of those before they're back in the driver's seat.
Oh, yeah. Smash still has his Baron buff as well, as it is a negative 2,000 gold Red Bull Baron power play. So Nongshim, they can take that to the bank. I don't know whether it's going to save their Nexus, but still. Gio going to be clearing out waves as best he can. The wave clear is mainly going to be coming from Fisher this game, and so the Baron buff kind of makes him a little bit sad. But when the minion waves are crashing in on top side and mid, and he's just clearing them out, he does do a decent job taking them down. But now that the siege is on, this is where things get dangerous. Out goes King and in goes Keria. Ona looking for an advantage onto Jiu, who's trying to stay alive, but the bullet time says absolutely not. Lehens down to 50%, make that 30 and make that dead. Emperor's Divide doesn't do a whole lot because the all-out gets King and through it, but he also heads straight to the death chamber. It's a triple kill for Smash. Fisher the last man standing, and there was a blip, there was a bit of a hiccup, but ultimately the outcome was still the same as it's been dictated throughout the entirety of the game. T1 just too good in this game number one.
Very dominant game from T1. Their goal difference at 30, I think, was 4,096, something like that. We had that stat earlier, over 7,000 when we hit the 30-minute mark for them to end the game in this one. Had such a massive lead early, 4,000 at 10 this time around. Their stats are definitely going to be bolstered by this extremely dominant victory. I think for Nongshim, you got to go back to the drawing board a little bit. That 2v2 in the bottom side, a big disaster, trying to play around Aftershock, and then that first Grubs fight where they really over-indexed, hurt them so much. And from then on, against a team like T1 that has an Azir in the game, and it just knows how to dive incredibly well, they kill the Cassante bottom, kill the turret, repeat on top side. Oh, Cassante got free plates on the bottom side. The 0-2, Cassante's getting money? Oh no. I guess the rest of us are going to get a 3-item misfortune super early on in the game, and Faker's going to have so much extra money he can buy the arm guard. Went Leandri's first, didn't even need it. And man, T1, they know what to do with a lead. They know what to do with tempo, and they showcased it so incredibly well. You look at the damage share, how even it is. T1, minus that one small error there with the Baron buff, just so well coordinated. It's insane to see.
And the value of both this Jace and the Xin Zhao really represented as far as these damage numbers are concerned. Doran and Ona doing just a whole lot of work throughout this game. And I think that Jace first pick was a real dangerous one to leave up. I thought maybe Nongshim may have had some of the answers. Turns out they did not, but thankfully this is fearless. As we go to game number 2, Nongshim, a chance at blue side, maybe a chance at redemption, and for us, a chance to go to a break and then have the space to break down that game number 1 before we get to game number 2. See you soon.
야, 바위 여기, 바위 여기.
여기 있지.
나 왼쪽으로 돌아갈게.
아니다, 다시 날릴게. 야, 타. 이제 거의 다 왔어. 이제 거의 다 왔어.
끝내자.
왼쪽 올게.
센터 주세요. 와볼래? 센터가 아니긴 해, 근데. 잡아도 좋아라.
좋아요.